Johnson.
I'm recording now.
Okay, great. First of all, just to start, this is the February meeting, February 10th, 2026 of ANC3C's Public Safety Committee meeting, was created to foster closer coordination, communication, collaboration with Metropolitan Police Department and our other DC emergency agencies, response agencies. And also to serve as a forum for the community and an aid to the ANC. We take no decisions at this meeting, and we appreciate your joining. The meeting is being recorded. And I want to go immediately to Lieutenant Irwin Johnson because, first of all, we appreciate your joining, taking time from your day or evening, as the case may be. And we also understand there was an incident in Glover Park tonight, so you would have been well within your rights not to join because I know that you and your colleagues have many other things going on. So let's turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. It's Lieutenant Johnson from PSA 204, which includes part of ANC3C and have the Woodley Park portion. But yes, sir, we have working a domestic situation in Glover Park where one person was killed and a juvenile was shot, and that should be closed pretty soon, if not already. They have a suspect in mind, and they're tracking him. Other than that, let's get down to 3C, the reason why we're here today. 3C, we had one ADW. First of all, we had 23 total crimes, down from 38. So that's a reduction of 15 crimes. We had one assault with a dangerous weapon. Gun happened on 37th block of Reno Road on January 20th. It was the sounds of gunshots initially for a call for sound for gunshots. We didn't find anything that night. The next day, a person reported that he was in the area, 37th block of Reno Road, and his car received one destruction. He had a bullet hole in his car door. He reported that the next day. That case is still open. Other than that, we had 18 thefts and one motor vehicle theft. The motor vehicle theft happened in the 3200 block of 35th Street Northwest. Stolen was a 2025 BMW. Apparently, the thieves had made a key fob and stole this owner's BMW from their driveway. So these guys are getting a little smarter. They was able to duplicate the owner's key fob and take their car, but it was recovered in 5D the same day. So that was recovered, but no arrests have been made in that situation yet either. I'll open up now for any questions about anything going on in 2D or anything I can answer.
Right.
Sure. Sorry, just wanted to follow up on the incident, 3700 block of Reno Road. So is that so that I can understand it correctly? So that was shots fired or a shot that was fired at a motor vehicle that was traveling, or was there a driver and passengers in the car at the time?
The Reno Road, the victim said he heard gunshots the same night it was reported, but he didn't notice any damage to his vehicle till the next day.
I see.
He
So nobody
reported,
was
yeah.
in the vehicle then. It was
Yeah, this vehicle just in the area, didn't have anything to do with it when he was shooting.
okay.
He didn't see anything, he just heard gunshots. He said he didn't think anything of it. Came home the next day, he noticed a bullet hole in his car. But he wasn't part of any kind of situation that he would be shot at, he said. Just passing by. Yes, sir.
For the BMW, you saying that they duplicated the key fob or they had the second key?
It seemed like it was the owner had both key fobs, so
Oh,
it had to be
that's
they
great.
duplicated some kind of way. Maybe happened at the dealership, and maybe these guys had a computer where they can duplicate your key fob. But it was definitely a key fob they used
Wow.
to get it
That's
started.
very interesting.
It
This
was a
is,
2020.
oh,
Mhm.
I'm so
Yes,
sorry. I'm
yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Go ahead.
This is a completely electronic kind of beep sort of a starter key, not a physical key fob. It's something that's
Right.
programmable. Okay.
Yeah, 2025
Oh,
BMW. This keys that's going to be complicated. So it's a key fob that you push a button.
Interrupt you. You were gonna
that's
say?
because if you think about it, they would have to have access to the code to create
Yeah.
that key fob, which is in its own right kind of scary.
But some kind of way locksmiths can do it too. Some locksmiths have the technology come out and duplicate a key fob
Yeah.
using your VIN number. It's possible, but it's not easy to do. Yeah.
I guess my question is, are you seeing that throughout the city or is that like specific to here? And also, I'm fully fascinated by how these idiots manage to duplicate like the key fob thing and
Mhm.
like not fix a license plate issue because you found it right away, right?
Right. This car you can track. Yeah.
Criminals are dumb. Sorry.
Well, this these criminals might be a little kind of technology savvy. They might be smart if they can do that with a 2025
Yeah.
BMW. And no, it's not. No, this is not normal. We don't get these kind of cases too much. Usually the
Okay.
car's running and they get in and take it, but not with a key fob that's a locked vehicle, and they get in and drive away. It's just not normal.
Yeah, because no, the former council member Mary Chey like left her car running and obviously it got stolen.
And that's the normal way they do it with these later
Yeah,
models of
yeah,
vehicles. Yeah.
for
So
No.
this
sure.
is this is not normal, and we know we're tracking to see if anything happens again, but hopefully
And
not.
nobody was
Yeah.
hurt in this crime, right?
No, no, just they stole the
Okay,
car from the
okay.
driveway. The car was locked. The owner was home. They saw
Wow.
the ring camera went off, and they saw the car driving away.
The only reason why I say it's crazy is because like my building just transitioned away from physical keys and they've started those very similar you hold the fob up to the door and it unlocks. And so I'm like, well,
Yeah, I
if
don't
they're copying keys, like is someone gonna just walk into my apartment in the middle of the day?
Well, like I say, it's not. This is not normal. So
know. Okay.
yeah,
Normal, but you said the car was traceable. So the moment it went missing, you were able to locate it and trace
yeah,
it.
yeah. With the owner's help, they could track this. They tracked this car and
Okay.
got it back within hours.
Okay. All right.
It was
Thank you.
recovered.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Johnson, later in today's meeting, we're going to be focusing on the storm response, which is something that we discussed from
Mhm.
a transportation angle in another committee. But the results also have a public safety dimension. I mean, emergency response for ambulance and so forth is obvious, but I am curious, given the unusual storm and the ice and the sort of slow response efforts, what are some of the challenges that you yourself experienced or your fellow officers experienced as a result of the storm, particularly in responding, in patrolling and responding to calls? And, do you have any observations on what can be done differently the next time to overcome some of those challenges?
I think the city did pretty good this time with the snow removal and the response. The city prepared. They got hotels for our emergency responders. I think the fire department and the police department got free hotel rooms. They couldn't get home, so we had personnel that was able to be ready available. We also had National Guard. They had the Humvees. Each district I think had at least one or two Humvees for streets we couldn't get down. But I don't think we had any problems getting to any calls for service that night. Of course, people were getting stuck and calling the police, but there's not much the police can do. And DPW was kind of backed up with, snow removal. So some folks had to be, transported away from their vehicle and we had to leave it there for a while until we can get back to it. But other than that, I think we did pretty good with responding to calls for service during the snow.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Other questions, Commissioner Pagas?
Um, I am aware that there was a call to the bridge that the top bridge,
Yes.
the Civic, and that your officers were successful in well, one, the barriers worked. because you're officers who are successful in talking somebody off. Is
Yes.
that happened? Can you inform us more on that, or did that work better or worse, or like any
Well,
information you can
well,
provide? And again, I'm gonna say I'm incredibly sorry that like your officers have to respond, you and your officers have to respond to this, right? Um, but any insights you have?
well, in this case, we were lucky that we got a call from the person's mom. He called and told us and gave us a location for their child that was walking. When I say child, I mean 21, 22 years old, walking
Okay.
towards half bridge, wanted to commit suicide. And we beat him to the bridge. We saw him walking north on Connecticut. He made it to the bridge he was trying to go around the barrier when the officer stopped him. And the mom was right on point. I guess she had him on FaceTime. She gave us a good description of what he had on and was able to locate him. And before he can get behind he's going to walk behind the fence line, the barriers, but he wasn't able to get there because we got him, talked to him, and got him help that he needed.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yep.
that. And please extend all of our appreciation. I don't mean to speak on behalf of all of my colleagues on the commission or my community, but I do. And it means the world. And thank you.
I thought,
Thank you.
thank you. The officer did a great job on that situation. And the mom did too, because she called us, gave us, his update. I guess they have with the iPhones, you get the locations. It's very good work.
Thank you.
Because when I go to a Caps game, my mother is always like, "Why are you at the National Building Museum at 7 p.m.?" And I'm like, "Okay, Mom." Mitchell and then Courtney.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Prizzo. Thank you, Lieutenant Johnson, for your continued increased presence and patrols in the area and efforts during the storm. We appreciate all of it. Just a couple of hopefully quick questions about an issue that is always front of mind for me currently, and it's around MPD staffing levels and potential impact of any future drawdown of federal partners. And so, just some targeted questions. Does MPD still have vacancies that you're trying to fill?
Well, I can't. I work at 2D.
Yeah.
I'm a lieutenant. I can't speak
Okay.
for the chief or MPD,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
can say that we're still recruiting and we
Okay.
still need help, and we still have other federal partners that augment our patrols.
You know,
Where crime, yeah.
I appreciate all the caveats and um but I still really value all the insights that you have, and I understand they're limited to your lived experience
My district, yes,
in
my
your
district
district.
and my tour dude. I worked the midnight tour, and a lot of times we are understaffed, but
Mhm.
currently we have attached to 2D the FBI agents, we have IRS agents and HSI, Homeland Security Investigations agents. They augment crime suppression team. These will work between 4 and 3 a.m.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I think you've mentioned on prior meetings like this that the collaboration with the federal partners that you just mentioned
Hmm.
has helped reduce uh, crime in your observation.
In my opinion, and with the stats, as you can see it's made a difference.
Okay, it's made a difference and it's continuing for now.
Hmm.
Um, and if the federal partners were to return to historical levels, whatever those were, would MPD need any additional staffing or resources to preserve the reductions in crime that you've witnessed through those partnerships?
I like this. Well, time will tell, and
Okay.
one day this will end, and we will have data and facts. To, I would say we still would, yes, need help, but and I think the stats may go up as far as the crime levels, the violent crime levels.
So, and that's why I'm worried about this and thinking about this now. What, if any, ideas, and you can take this back and continue to think about it because I know that, we'll see you again, hopefully on future meetings. But I guess, and I'll give you that out if you want to take it. I'm really focused on and would appreciate any insights you could provide on what can we do, as a community or as in ANC with some ability to, make requests of the council to get ahead of that day and maintain the reductions in crime levels that we've experienced whenever the return to the level of federal partnership to, prior, like the before times occurs. What can we do to get ahead of that day and maintain the gains through the, MPD resources that we have or any additional MPD resources that we may need?
Well, I say the easy answer is to recruit and hire more police and try to retain the police officers we have. A lot of the young ones are coming in and they stay a couple of years and they leave and go to other agencies. It's hard to retain the officers. I guess we need better working conditions, probably better pay, better benefits to keep these folks at MPD. We're losing some good ones.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I would appreciate you continuing to think and elaborate on, maybe more details, and we'll think about how we can try to facilitate that with our limited roles. And thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
I got a question today from people in my neighborhood about if they were to call 311 about the water situation, how how would they be directed? Do you think are you getting any calls to the police department about the sewage spill and how it might be impacting the water?
If you call through, I'm sure they're directed to DPW. Those calls should go directly to them. Where these problems happen in our area?
Oh, well, I mean, it's in the Potomac and it's still leaking into the Potomac. So
Oh,
so what they're doing, I mean, they'll give you updates on the levels of things like E. coli and stuff, but what I'm hearing is that it's maybe the worst environmental disaster the country has ever experienced.
mm.
And people were just saying, well, what if, they're having a hard time getting day-to-day daily updates. So they wanted me to find out if they were to call 311, how efficient or how up to date would that information be, and if you know or not.
Uh, uh, the mayor's office probably would be a better place to call for something like that. They would
All right.
probably put you in the right direction and who to talk
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
All right. Is there Rick, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was going to say, first, people can also call DC Water for water quality issue questions.
Mhm.
But I was just going to ask, are there any other questions for Lieutenant Johnson? I appreciate your joining, and I know you're about to start your shift. So,
Oh, yeah, I'm at home right now. I'm gonna leave here and go straight to work and get things started. I stayed here to be on time for the meeting.
well, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you very much again for joining us.
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Well, I'll
Thank
see you
you.
next month or whenever you have me. Just let me know, and I'll be glad to come back on anytime you need me.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone, be safe. If you have any questions, just email me. I'll put my email in the chat for anybody who needs it.
Thank you.
Yep. You don't have to wait till the meeting.
All right. Well, we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continuation of our last meeting. And that is a discussion on on the snow response from DC government. We had a pretty extensive conversation in the Transportation Committee meeting. Obviously, being able to move about the city is a public safety issue as well. So we lumped it into this meeting as in addition to that one. So if anybody has anything they want to talk about when it comes to snow removal, response, lack thereof, now is your time.
And maybe I can just reflect on some of the observations and ideas in the
Sorry,
transportation.
go ahead.
And, you know, Gowan Kripke and obviously the chair and Janelle Pagets were also on the call. But, we discussed first of all, acknowledge this is an unusual storm with many challenges and appreciate the efforts that the city had done to mitigate the storm as they had. However, um, after maybe the first 48 hours, it seemed the city just gave up, and within our own ANC, residents over in Massachusetts Avenue Heights, just north of Glover Park and east of Wisconsin, you know, most streets didn't see a snowplow for 8 days plus. When other streets, of kind of a similar classification were getting multiple passes. And, I understand that that was to some extent historical, that the neighborhood always feels in major storms they're missed. But also, DPW's own data was showing they had been there when they hadn't. And then, despite lots of efforts from the council member, from the mayor's staff and others, they still didn't get a pass. So that was one issue. The other issue, very acute, particularly, in the sort of central and east side, southeast side of our ANC, is the fact that, bridges remained unplowed. A bit more attention on the Klingle Bridge, largely through the efforts of neighbors, but area routes that people depend on to walk, to bike, just I mean, even now, in some places, like on Massachusetts Avenue, not addressed. So, there was a range of response, and one again where the city kind of ceased efforts with its contractors after a few days rather than prioritizing and just getting after it because it matters. And then we also reflected on potential responses by the city in the future. And one point that was made is many property owners, residential, also commercial, haven't cleared their walkways, and the city suspended enforcement. Um, Delayed enforcement probably would have made sense, but suspending it altogether meant that some people never cleared. And indeed, anecdotally, we heard that some commercial property owners were saying it was, if there were enforcement, simply better, more economical decision to pay than fine than to hire a contractor to do, walkways, particularly, which are often on major streets. And so the current rates for commercial property fines are barely above what they are for residential. And, if that's the attractive economic proposition, then maybe the city needs to look at changing the terms of that equation. So that was one idea. And then there were numerous ideas about facilitating more community or collaborative efforts, to help neighbors to procure and lend, equipment like snow plows or, other tools to break up ice, road salt and things, particularly for residents who don't normally have access or can store them. The list, excuse me, sort of micro lists, immediate neighborhood lists on Signal or WhatsApp to notify of both conditions, availability of services, and resources to address things. So other commissioners may have other observations they want to share, and we can go from there and specifically talk about public safety aspects and what you all have been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I just would like to add too that we talked about, sorry, my phone is going crazy here. We talked about, I guess, how DC divides who's responsible for what. And like nobody really like DPW is responsible for clearing the street, but DDOT's responsible for clearing the bike lane, which is in the street. And it's the property owner that's responsible for the sidewalk, but it also might be Metro if it's near a Metro stop. And there's just like a lot of people that are tasked with doing things that, in my opinion, and Commissioner Beard said it in the last meeting, they didn't really do a great job of telling people before and during the actual storm, like this is who's responsible for what, this is when to expect something. So like we talked a lot about just general communication and the lack thereof in this past snowstorm. Um, so I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think you mentioned the fine as a resident, is it $25 and commercially? Can anyone tell me what the fines are for not plowing the sidewalk?
I think it's Janelle, it was 150, 125. Oh, I think we lost Janelle.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
between 125 and 150.
And that's both residential and commercial?
I apologize. It's 25, I believe, for residential, and it is at least 150 for commercial. It might be more than that. Now, is that per day or is that like, I don't know. That's like not really spelled out in the the regulation. Um, that's a good question. Um, but when the mayor was like, we're not imposing the fines, she kind of said like, you don't have to shovel your street. And these were on major corridors, right, where people weren't shoveling their street. I can speak to K Street. I can speak to Connecticut Avenue. I can speak to the major corridors that, as pedestrian, weren't cleared because she was just like, people thought that by not imposing the fine, that they didn't need to actually do the work. And I don't think that's what she meant. Um, sorry. I was just eating dinner. Um, I think th there's a lot of other things. Like, I don't know why she did that. It just really frosted my cookies. Again, to melt all of the ice with my anger. If I could do it, I would do it, y'all.
Can
Thanks.
I can I
Elizabeth.
ask a question? I mean, I think that it's the patchwork nature that makes it so hard. But thinking about my immediate neighborhood, we always have the library. We have the crosswalks that abut the library and that still are not plowed. We have the bus shelters, which were inaccessible. People had to walk in the street to get onto the bus, and it was a mess. It was icy. We have in front of Metro, of course. We have in front of the post office. I mean, there are a lot of things that don't fall into nifty residential and it's piecemeal. Whether is it federal? Is it local? Is it, so it becomes very hard.
I've I've guilted the buildings around me, including mine, into clearing bus shelters. Um, what is what it happened is with my building, like it's pristine. The sidewalk is pristine, right? But then they come and they plow the street. And then the crap from the plowing of the street, because they won't, and this is my other question for the city that I'm gonna ask is like, why won't you plow to the middle of the road? Right? Why are you plowing the curb? Why not plow to the middle of the road? And just take the lane in the middle of the road and not take that curb with their plow crap.
I think that though, like it's easier, especially on smaller streets, to plow the cars in than to have more snow.
No, I agree. I agree on the small streets, but I'm talking about Connecticut Avenue. Like I'm talking about where you're talking about where there are bus
Right.
routes, right? Where there are bus stops.
I'm afraid that some of these places need to
But
be dug out by hand. Plowing only goes so far, and you
true,
got to physically
but
clear the crosswalks and
it
stuff.
makes more sense to take the lane, the car lane, in the middle of the street and have those plows like just shove shit in the middle of the street and you take the two lanes, one lane, whatever, in the middle of the car path, right? Rather than rather than plow stuff and make it impossible to shovel a curb cut. So, and I'm not talking about on side streets. I'm talking about on main roads like Wisconsin and Connecticut. There, like you can easily shift the plow to go left instead of right. That's easy. So why aren't we doing it? It's because we care about cars. We care about cars more than we care about people. And the amount of time I've spent in the past week begging and pleading for people to shovel curb cuts is insane. So, y'all, if your cars are fully available, well, I'm like pushing people in wheelchairs over like icy paths, and I'm like, we're both gonna end up in the hospital. Like this is bad, and it's
My,
because
un- oh,
it's
I'm sorry, Janelle.
nobody cares.
Is it my understanding that there are volunteer groups for shoveling? Because we banded together, my son and my friend and I went around and we chunked out big things of ice and shoveled sidewalks of people who couldn't do it. And it was my understanding that there is a service in a volunteer service or more organized than
There,
what yeah, I'm
there is.
sorry.
So the mayor's office through Serve DC runs Snow Heroes. They're supposed to come out and shovel out people who are disabled and or elderly. We did from some of my neighbors in Woodley Park was relayed to us that they did not come out even though they were quote unquote deployed. But there is that program.
Okay, do people know how to sign up for it, Adam? Or
I
yeah.
don't.
There's also the issue, Courtney, that like those people need to get from where they are to where they're going. Which
Right.
could
So maybe we should have in
its
each
own problem, you know?
like right. So maybe just in each location we could try to concentrate those numbers in our neighborhoods in like a 3 or 4 block radius. Maybe have 1 or 2 people signed up for that. I'd be willing to be one.
Say, Mitchell, you've had your hand up for a bit.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Nash, for the recap of the transportation meeting. I concur that it was a really crazy storm with the ice and the super cold temperatures for an extended period that followed. I think it was really helpful to ask the question of Lieutenant Johnson, and so it sounds like, at least from that exchange, perhaps we could get different information from others. We're not aware of a police or emergency response impact of the snow removal efforts or in adequate or inadequate as they were. I think, we all have experiences with insufficient plowing of, neighborhood streets, secondary and tertiary streets, and I mean, as Commissioner Kripke is aware, we had our own story in our neck of the woods of very slow plow times, a plow that got stuck trying to plow our street, and then several days where our street was actually inaccessible to a plow because of an abandoned, stolen car that took many calls to 311 and 911 to have towed for some reason. Um, so those are some of our own local stories. But I guess in terms of ideas for how this group could potentially be useful or facilitate some useful, reflection on this particular storm. Just a couple of thoughts. One is, I it appeared to me just anecdotally that police enforcement of emergency evacuation routes and parking and emergency evacuation routes was not consistent with prior storms, and that certainly can't help things. Um, I think that whatever the division of labor between DPW and DDOT, it would be useful to ask for some sort of collaborative post-mortem that those two groups would conduct on their efforts and any failings and ideas on how to do a better job in the future, whether it's better coordination or additional resources, because just from what I've heard of people who have familiarity with those groups and in particular with DDOT, there is, at least on an insider level, I think some awareness of some internal misses, procedural or whatever they were in the response. And then another idea is if this group or the probably more fitting since it involves oversight of DDOT and or DPW, the transportation group was interested. I don't know if this is appropriate for the ANC or not, but just sort of thinking out loud, since the current mayor is not running for re-election, it may make sense to poll mayoral candidates on their views on the response and ideas to ensure the best possible snow response in the future so that this basic city service stays high profile and candidates are aware that this is something that their constituents would want them to address at a very high level. So that's all that I had. Thank you.
Elizabeth, before I let you talk, I did want to go back to your question though about bus stops and like the post office and all that. So the D70 stops that are in front of the two metro entrances to the Cleveland Park Metro, those are the responsibility of WMATA. It's just, it gets tricky when you get down towards the stop by the library and then on the other side of the street, because in theory, even though, excuse me, it's a Metro bus stop, like because it's like Metro, according to the graphic that I can try to find and put in the chat, that the mayor's office put out, like Metro is only responsible for bus stops at Metro rail stations and not like the ancillary bus stops. So it leaves open to interpretation, in my opinion, who's responsible for it. Because is it the business or is it the Metro? And like for the post office, like my understanding is the post office would be treated like any other business and they're responsible to dig out their sidewalk. Now, will they? No, but that's what I would interpret by that. But go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering, there remains a problematic one that I have seen a lot, and that is the library. But like whoever shoveled the library, would it have been so hard to do the crosswalk going across to Connecticut and to Macomb, and also a safe path to the bus stop? I mean, you're shoveling anyway. I just don't understand. I mean, it just
Yeah.
seems like the very bare minimum in terms of it was a shovel wide path. And I have seen other things on the listserv, for example, for people who are handicapped asking for, could you please shovel more than, the 12 inches just to get people through? Because anybody who's trying to push a stroller, I mean, I think wheelchairs are less usual, but there's plenty of strollers and stuff that go through. And those are actually inaccessible. So, um, and I do wonder about, the houses in this neighborhood that remain unshoveled. We're 2 weeks in now,
Yeah.
and they're still not done. And at a certain point,
Those people are assholes. Oh, sorry. For real. That don't shovel their sidewalks. But Elizabeth, I can answer a little bit of your questions and
okay.
confusion about that. Um, DC Public Libraries is under DGS, quasi under themselves. So that like adds a nuance there that's like silly. And then the whole thing of like to Adam's point of WMATA and like who shovels bus stops, right? DDOT owns the bus stops outside of the ones that are directly on WMATA property. Um, so it would be nice if they shoveled them, but they're probably not because they're also DDOT is saying like businesses and property owners like shovel, right? It's like a social contract. And some people do and some people don't, and meh. And we end up with this like mishmash of like again, some people do and some people don't. Um, it, I don't know that it should be on the city to fund like shoveling all of this because it's incredibly expensive, especially like contracting it when it doesn't happen. But also knowing like we had 80 staffers that were leaf blowers or leaf collectors, excuse me, leaf collectors that have been sitting idle for the past 2 weeks. What the hell have they been doing? You know? They weren't picking up leaves. Could they have been picking up trash? I don't know.
Well, uniquely this year we had the National Guard who did not seem to be involved.
Well, thank you. That's another apparently
Elizabeth, that's not true. They were guarding the trash in the metro. It was a
apparently
his
nobody was
job.
able to procure them shovels. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we could have solved that problem. Um, but I don't, it seems like a very solvable problem. And it seems very easy, yet every time we like trip over ourselves, being like, snow. So I'm as frustrated as everybody else. I'm open to moving solutions forward and not just bitching about a problem. So there's that.
I do, just before I go to you, Mitchell, I do want to say, like, and I reiterated this in the transportation meeting. My old apartment building is next to a school, and they don't shovel. It was, an elementary school. It's Oyster. They don't shovel their sidewalk. And the owner of the building, when I had initially emailed him about it, when I was a tenant there, and I was the ANC commissioner, and it was my DC.gov email address, literally responded to me and says it's cheaper for him to pay the fine than it is to hire somebody. And if you're not willing to put in that effort to shovel out a sidewalk so kids can go to school, like that's an issue for me. And I don't know if it's worthwhile for this ANC to even pass a letter. I don't even know who it would go to. I guess it would go to DPW or the mayor or maybe council and just say, we need to revisit these fines and we need to revisit the scale of these fines. And, if you're, or even make the fines clear. Is it a flat 125 or is it 125 a day? Because if it's 125 a day, then it's really not economical for you not to shovel your sidewalk. But if it's a one-time 125, then maybe. But I don't know if it's worthwhile for us to look at the feasibility. Like maybe let's say it's $200.
Well, my building is like the scope of our sidewalk, right? If we don't shovel it and somebody slips and falls and we get sued,
Right,
like
correct.
we're in it. So it's more beneficial for us to just have that thing be pristine. And I take pride in my building sidewalk, 3100 Connecticut. You can basically have a picnic on it. It is clear to the daylights. Um, I think other people like rental,
The
and
owner doesn't put as much care into it because
and
they're a
I
good
don't,
tenant.
I also don't think homeowners put as much care into it because if they get sued, they're only getting sued to a margin, right?
Right.
And it's not to where they'll sue my property, right? Like my property's getting got, whereas although some of the properties in North Cleveland Park are more than the 177 units in my property, um, value wise, it doesn't behoove some people to gives a kid $50 to shovel the walkway. I don't understand that.
Mitchell?
Okay, thanks a lot and for being heard again on this topic. I just wanted to actually pick up on a point that Commissioner Pagets made with respect to trash collection, and I don't know how that neatly that fits within the purview of either of these committees or within the scope of the letter that anyone's contemplating writing. But I can say in our neighborhood, and I'm sure others have similar experiences, the last trash collection occurred on Friday, January 23rd. It was or a Thursday pickup. It was delayed because that was a holiday week, um, as is the custom. And so it's been almost 3 weeks and no trash collection. And I understand there's been some reporting that we're now returning to normal trash collection schedules, whatever that means. But that's a public health issue, certainly, if not a public safety issue. And the alley, we're a rear collection. The alley's been clear for, passable for an extended period of time. Um, and the only explanation that I've heard is that even if the alley is passable, there's some concern, or the street is passable, there's some concern that trash bins could be frozen into the snow. And I can't figure out how that would be a good reason to just wait for all the snow to melt before attempting any trash collection. That doesn't seem like a real workable strategy. And so I think that the trash collection has been at least as big of a problem in my observation as the snow removal. And so I don't know if we want to throw that in anything that we work up or not, but wanted to second that point.
Go ahead, Gowan.
Just wanted to raise a couple. I mean, I don't know that there's a problem, but I want to put the question out to make sure that residents, uh, it's been 2 weeks where you've had disruption, some amount of disruption. So is everybody getting food? Are they getting food deliveries? Is everybody's heat on? Because I know that actually there was a building in my SMD that had heat problems. Um, and I know I had neighbors who had doctor's appointments that they couldn't get to because of the snow. So for me, the question of public safety, there's a transportation issue, but it spills out into other ways that um, that we should be sensitive to, but also that there might be solutions to that are distinct from, plowing the streets. There might be special arrangements that should be made or could be made for specific people for specific issues in our neighborhood, and especially people that have disabilities or are otherwise vulnerable or elderly who might not have good uh, networks or social networks and so forth. We want to make sure that we're sort of finding them if they need help. So those are things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, and I mean that's not a bad idea. I feel like, especially like when it comes to heat issues, like I know that there's a building in my SMD that consistently has the problem of the building doesn't seem to want to abide by the city's like rule of by like May 1st you have to have the air on, and by I think it's like November something the heat has to be on. I don't know if it's worthwhile for us as a group to push out like the OAG hotline and all of that, because Brian Schwab has a really good staff on helping to resolve those issues. Um, or maybe even just highlighting that that's an option for people to call in situations like this. Janelle.
Yeah, I think Gowan articulated things in my head that clearly he is my phone. Like you said exactly what I have been like screaming. There are people like in so much need that this this system doesn't seem to account for. And I'm screaming for those people. You're screaming for those people. Like, I want them to get to their doctor's appointments. The, I'm an able-bodied person and I can barely get on the bus over these snow mounds, right? And I'm trying to push my neighbor onto the bus to get to their downtown appointment for their physical therapy. It's just, it's so frustrating. And like, there has to be a better solution than just like shrug face. I don't know. I'm just really, and I also wish I could help my neighbors more, but I also don't want us all to be in the hospital.
All right, so I do want to move on to the next topic unless anybody else has anything they want to raise on this. I think maybe Rick, you and I can and Commissioner Beard from Transportation can get together a letter, and maybe I'll do the same suggestion that I had in Transportation and send out a Google Doc for committee members to also put their thoughts in. And I mean, I would rather do this as one letter for both transportation and public safety, and send it to who it needs to go to. So maybe, the three of us can get together and weed through the comments and try to formulate a letter.
Okay, that's a good approach.
Sorry, this is regarding like snow response.
Yeah.
Oh, I support
Um, yeah, and like maybe sending it to, I guess, the mayor's office and the council and DPW, DDOT, blah, blah,
no,
blah.
H the Homeland
Sorry,
Security.
right. Homeland Security, and emergency management people.
That's literally their
Job.
yeah.
We have just two other things on the agenda that I want to get to. We are approaching budget season, and our ANC typically does a budget letter for both pre and post the mayoral budget drop. Um, so I'd like to either put in your head that it's time to start thinking about some things that you'd like to ask for. I know for this committee, like I would like to see maybe if we could get some better, I don't know, like speed cameras on Connecticut Avenue and things like that to kind of mitigate that public, right of way and making sure people can function in that environment. I know the city is not great with its budget on speed cameras, but it is what it is. But if anybody has any other priorities for budget season that you'd like to either talk about now or if you want to think about it, Mitchell. And then I think Elizabeth is also trying to get off mute.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. I'll just, I think, speed cameras make sense. I don't know, and I think we've talked in this committee about potential red light camera at the zoo intersection. I don't know if that went in. If not, I continue to support that. I don't know how that interacts with potential activity up on the hill involving speed cameras. Haven't haven't looked into that, but it seems like there could be some impact. Just to my line of questioning of Lieutenant Johnson and um, you know, I think everyone in this group knows that I think that MPD resources and ability to recruit and retain is a high priority. And another issue is, appropriate funding for the crime lab. Um, uh, and so those are the public safety related budget items that come to mind. Since there's a critical mass of 3C commissioners or, a good sized group of you guys on the phone right now, totally unrelated to public safety, but an issue of uber high priority to me that I personally see the impact of daily. Is DC's Early Child Education early pay equity fund, which allows uh, some sort of pay increases or for early childhood educators to be paid more aligned with other school teachers to attract and retain talent in that very important field. And I could go on for a long time with what a success I think that program has been and what a huge impact I've seen it make. And um, I know we kind of have to fight for it every year, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. And so um, I would love to continue to um, hold the pay equity fund banner high in addition to school funding, obviously.
And
I, I,
arguably they end up at the end of the road in greater public safety. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, a solid education system, you know. I mean, if we're going for low hanging fruit for, very small neighborhood requests for budget season, how about now that it's illegal to make a right turn on red, marking it in all
Read
major
by mind.
in the city,
yeah.
that could not cost that much. Just better signage that helps drivers know to do the right thing, so that whenever a lot of people passed their driving tests, the rules were different. So,
For real.
you know, um, that's a small one, but Mitchell, I would very much echo what you say about school budgets.
As a petulant child that went to school very early, I appreciate early childhood ed. But Adam, I apologize for interjecting, but I had a question, if I'm allowed to ask it
Go ahead.
to Mitchell about the cameras. Um, are you are you supportive of the cameras? Or are you like
Yeah,
anti-camera?
no,
Or
I
like what?
support. I'm supportive. I think that
Oh, yeah.
I I'm supportive of the cameras. I think that speed cameras are really useful in the absence of more, perhaps even, allow MPD to focus,
Adversarial police stops.
yeah, focus on other things and still try to, control and enforce traffic laws and also promote public safety around, you know, areas and intersections where there's a lot of pedestrian activity. And so I support whatever this committee feels is appropriate to advocate for speed and red light cameras.
Okay.
I was just reflecting that I think I've read something about activity up on the hill.
No, there.
Maybe we just let that play out and just with whatever megaphone we have, just continue to raise the importance of it and just let it play out however it will.
To be clear, like why I was asking you this question is like the activity on the hill. I was like, oh, they are putting up cameras, surveillance cameras, to surveil people, in the District of Columbia and other places. I think, Gowan, you got noticed and you were like, what in the hell are you doing? And you like push back like hardcore, like, are you just like looking for my neighbors to like get got? Like, what's going on here? Because we got notices about surveillance cameras, not traffic cameras, but like surveillance cameras being put up in the neighborhood, and we weren't quite sure what to do. So, Gowan, I don't like you were the one that got the information, which
Yeah.
was like not great. But if you want to speak to it, it would be helpful. But I think it would be great for the community to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, well, we got noticed that they were putting up some new surveillance cameras. I think it was down on Calvert Street, but
Yeah.
they have them in locations, and they also, I think you know, they have a program of
Yep.
installing cameras on buildings with the cooperation of the owners.
We love that
As
program.
so, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what I think about it actually. I find it a little sinister. On the other hand, there certainly can be helpful in terms of
I
uh,
will say,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to put you off, but the one where they reimburse the building for the security cameras. I learned that the MPD doesn't have access, even though they're paying for those cameras. MPD doesn't have access to those cameras.
No, that was incredibly important to my building.
Yeah,
Like
unless the
they don't
building
have access.
okays it.
But there are new cameras that they were putting up. That was what they were informing us of, and they were just like, "We have access forever."
Yeah, the one on Calvert
We
and
got
Woodley
big
Place.
side.
But like if your building does the camera rebate program, unless a crime has been committed and MPD asks for the cameras, like they can't see them.
But the one that Godwin and I are talking about are like for real, for real.
Yeah, the Woodley Place and Calvert Street one.
yeah.
Yeah. So Godwin, if you want to continue.
I don't have anything more. I mean, I thought it was interesting, but I'm like I don't have a actually I don't think I don't have a fully formed thought on it. It's something to be conscious of, but I don't know if it's good or bad, honestly. And it's something I wasn't aware that the city was doing until I got this notice. And so anyway, that's all I have. I don't really have more to say about it.
I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but you asked
Sorry.
a really good question to them because I also had the same question of like, what the hell? And like, I'm in the same position of like, I don't like, it could be good, it could be bad. I'm not understanding like the underlying reason. I don't know. I don't know.
Uh,
Anyways,
Elizabeth, did you have more? And then I want to move to Rick because I do want to wrap up. It
No,
is
let's go because I think I said what I wanted to. Thank you.
okay. Rick.
Okay, I do agree with a lot of the suggestions because, as we've talked about, pedestrian safety, bike safety, traffic safety are public safety issues. So it's an important area for budget focus. I would also like to see continued and expanded budgetary support in a more traditional public safety category, and that is to continue foot patrols and hopefully expand them in our commercial areas beyond Cleveland Park and Woodley Park. It's essential to keep those up and, ideally to expand them to the commercial area on the west side of our ANC on Wisconsin and to the southwestern corner of our ANC, the part of Glover Park. I think that these patrols have been important to, some of the crime reduction that we've seen, and it's also a really important tool of community policing and engagement. So I hope that they keep that up.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
I would too, but if to listen to you all talk about these cameras, if we're changing over to becoming a surveillance state, so, people are not going to need foot patrols. They're going to be able to watch stuff happen in real time and then go after people based on facial recognition. Just
Yeah.
mentioning that.
I don't know how I feel about that, but you are right.
I am right.
It's a little scary to think that, like, Big Brother is watching, but
But
uh,
I mean, look at Luigi Mangione. Yes, Big Brother really is watching, and they really can, find people based on cameras. And so I just think that I agree with Rick, and I would love to live in an era where a foot patrol was important, but I think that technology is supplanting people very quickly.
But technology, we think of it as, surveillance in the usual sense of the, security cameras around a building, but we find that the technology may be useful for crime solving, and that's obviously very important. It's less helpful, I think for crime prevention and even crime deterrence. And, that's where I think human engagement by police, ideally slowed down on bikes, on foot, in our higher traffic areas, in our commercial areas, is important.
I don't disagree. I just think we're in a transition period and people are going to learn very quickly that they're going to be arrested based on camera in the next 10 years.
Just pro tip, like don't crime. Like don't crime. And like I think what we want to do is we really want to build community so that people aren't compelled to crime. And I think that's the ultimate goal. And I know that that seems unachievable and really hard, but like that's what I strive for. Like
All very nice, Janelle, but
I want.
it seems
No,
like
I know.
no.
Mm.
It seems to me that now, based on facial recognition from protests and things, people are having things like their TSA clearance removed and their global entry removed because
No,
they have been filmed at protests. To
there
be
are 1000% awful people, and those people are also in the Epstein files. So this is a weird world, but I'm gonna personally not crime, and I'm gonna work to my best ability to like make my community and my friends and all the people that I know and love, which is literally all of you are great. Um, my community and like there's just like a little scope of the world that you can scope out. And I just I'm sorry. I need to have like a little tiny slice of the world that's like good. And I hope it's this one.
well, on that happy note, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? If not, we will see you all in a month. But if there is something that somebody wants to talk about, no? All right.
Thank you very much, Adam and Rick.
Thank you guys. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks all.